G'day everybody, thanks for stopping by. Today's video, we're going to be having a look at the EcoFlow Delta 3 Plus. Now, just really want to show you how much flexibility you've got with this Delta 3 Plus as far as charging options. The alternator charger obviously will work with a 12 or 24 volt system. We've run it off the solar panels, which we've got over there. That's our 400 watt system. Load test the inverter on the 24 volt system that's been built into the caravan now, and then we'll test the charge rate on this. Now, this is obviously the newer generation of the Delta 2. This is around about 1 kilowatt hour. It's probably going to be like 1048, 1076, something like that. We'll put it up on the screen. So it's going to be similar specs to the old Delta 2 that we had and we've tested previously on the channel. Review up there. It still feels like it's over 10 kilo, but it just feels like it's just that little bit lighter than the others. And just having a quick look at the box, it looks like they've upped their game as far as looks goes. Oh, this is a bit snazzy. It's a nice silver colour. Now we're about to get some rain, so we're gonna just have a quick look at this before that happens. They upgraded the buttons on this, and it's a much nicer looking unit. It's again, layouts can't really change that much, to be honest, from power stations. Nobody's really doing anything out of the box at this stage. They're all just doing sort of those incremental changes, and I've got to tell you, everybody's pumping them out, and EcoFlow is no different. I mean, what did we get that Delta 2? Not that long ago, certainly less than 6 months ago than we did the review on that, probably getting close to 12 months. That's definitely an upgraded screen from any of their older units. Numbers nice and big, easier to read. We've got our percentage in the middle, and then we've got our inputs and outputs on either side, and then we've got a time up the top. This is how you do a screen. I mean, from a layout perspective, it's same. It looks nice, it's crisp, but just the sheer fact that you can see it from pretty much any angle in front of this device is outstanding. Anytime I use these, they're sitting down on the ground like this. This is how I tend to use them. Connected up to a solar panel on the ground, plugged in, running whatever it is I need to run. And for me to go and get and have a look at the screen, I've got to pick them up and have a look at that like that. I am very impressed with the fact that I can read that screen from this angle. I haven't seen another power station do that yet. Now this is the layout that I actually prefer as far as these power stations go. I like my outputs on the front and my inputs on the back. I like them separate. I also like the fact that this is elongated. So when we looked at the Anchor the other week, the screen etc was all on the side. I like the layout of the Delta because it's a slim line. So if you needed to slip it in somewhere, like onto a shelf or something, it's only taking up a narrow space. It's deeper, obviously, but I prefer that than having it widthwise. It's got a number of connections on the back. As far as charging ports, you've got two XD60 inputs, up to 500 watts per input for your solar, so 1000 watts of solar input. You've got your AC input, which is your standard plug there. Obviously, you've got this proprietary plug that will work with your expansion battery, so you can get expansion batteries that will plug into this to double, triple your capacity that you've got in this unit. Plus, if you want additional charging and you're happy to connect it up to your car's alternator and increase the charge rate there up to 800 watts, you can have a look at their alternator charger. Did a review. If you want to go and have a look, check up there. And they're all pushing the, get your fast charger, get your alternator charger, whatever the case may be, your fast charging from AC. But they're putting less and less emphasis on the solar aspect of it. A little bit disappointed because that's the aspect of these type devices that I like the most. In an emergency situation or something like that, those fast charging aspects are awesome. Okay, so we're out here in the caravan with the Delta 3 Plus. The reason I'm out here with it is I want to kill two birds with one stone. I've finished installing the basics of the 24 volt battery system, and I've installed the 2000 watt inverter, and I want to test the charging rate of the Delta 3 Plus. I also wanted to load test the inverter and the 24 volt system in the van, so why not kill two birds with one stone? So I've got the heater on, we've got the Delta 3 Plus, we've got the dog. We're just going to test the system basically, so I'm going to plug it in, we'll just see how it goes. Quick question, sound off in the comments if you wouldn't mind. I'm thinking that I need to start standardising the tests and things that I do on these power stations because I'm receiving so many. I've done probably a dozen reviews on different power stations, and I'm always trying to do real world tests, which means trying to come up with some different way to use the unit that's interesting that I haven't done in previous videos. Yeah, it's getting hard to come up with unique scenarios and ways to test them that isn't just going to be rinse and repeat and boring. So it's going to be less real world though, and I don't know whether I like that. If there's things you want to see me do with these power stations, how you want to see them used, how you want to see them tested, let me know and I'll try and incorporate that into the test. But for now, and again, for something slightly different, I'm going to plug it into the Caravan, 300 amps, 24 volts lithium, run it off the inverter there, and then just see how she charges up. It'll be good for me to know how this charges up off that system as well. Now, I haven't set this up. Just want to give you a look in this top cupboard and show you what I keep up here. This is my USB stuff and all that sort of thing, charging things, lights, whatever. And there is the little, I think that was the River 2. Oh, we've got a little spider hanging here. This is the River 2, so this stays in here. I plug that into the USB-C and just charge it up at around about that 100 watts. But that stays in there as my backup. If I need to take some power out for whatever reason. Think somewhere between sort of 80 and 90 amp hours worth of battery in this one. 300 watt inverter in that little River. And this one does 1800 watts with a 3600 watt peak. So I've just pulled through the switch panel. We've now got remote access to our inverter. And there's our power cable coming out there as well. A couple of reasons why I wanted to show you this, I guess, process that I'm working through at the moment. One, I wanted to show you how I was testing it. Two, I want to show you how shit my hair was today. And three, just want to show you a bit of a comparison between how you operate these two things. So if you were running a Delta, which is a separate system, obviously the battery and the inverter all included, so you could just obviously log into the Delta like this and it just turns itself off because it is dead flat. See that Delta come to life. There we go there. Showing 0%, as you can see there, and it's only taking 545 around about 600 watts. So often what you'll find is if you delete your power station or deplete your power station 100%, so take it down to 0, when you initially plug it in, it's going to start at a slower charge rate. Usually around about that 5%, she'll start to kick up and then give you the full power. For testing purposes, I'm always just going to leave it at that full charge rate. It's a nice unit. It does everything that it says on the box. It's typical EcoFlow. It's reliable. It does what it says it's going to do. There's no real surprises there. But what I'm really liking, and I haven't gone completely down the rabbit hole, but is some of the functionality that they've now built into this app. Apps in the past have never really been EcoFlow's strong point for me. And I say that based around not necessarily the connections or anything like that. Connections have always been solid, but around firmware updating and upgrading, it hasn't always been the smoothest process for me, but that's something you do very, very rarely. If you're going to be connecting this up to your house, you want to use it as a PSU or a backup or something along those lines, you can schedule when this thing is going to take a charge, what times it uses solar, what time it pulls from the AC circuit. You want this to charge up in the off-peak times. And you can schedule that in this. Under emergency settings, they've got this thing called Storm Guard. If a severe weather event is predicted in your device's area, within 12 hours, Storm Guard will activate and you'll receive a notification on your phone. So what you would do is obviously make sure it was plugged in, charge it up, and in the event that you've got a power outage, you've got 100% battery. So that's a nice little feature. Now here's another thing. It's called output port memory. It says the AC and DC outputs will memorize their on-off status when the device is powered off or when the device stops outputting power due to low battery. They will remain in their on or off status when the device is restarted and when the battery levels rise to a certain level. For example, I've got the old little Bluetti, right, connected. It's only a little 300 watt unit and it's connected to a solar panel and it sits outside, so it gets all sorts of weather, gets rained on, all that sort of business, and it's powering just like a little, it's like an outdoor pond, if you will. I grow some plants and things in it for the fish tanks. Just doesn't have the capacity, so it relies on the solar during the day, charged up to 100%, and every day I've got to walk over and push that button on the side of the thing because when it runs out of power it turns off, and then despite the fact that the solar's come up, charge it back to 100%, it doesn't turn it back on. With this, it goes overnight, you haven't got any solar, for whatever reason your fridge is used or your battery or you've been using other things and your fridge is plugged into this, and now because it's running out of power, the fridge is no longer running, then that fridge is going to start getting power as soon as this thing starts charging back up off your solars. That's a really nice feature to have, and one that I think people have probably been caught out with in other units where that doesn't happen. And look, here's another one. disable grid bypass, right? So say you've got your fridge plugged into this, and then this is plugged into your 240. It's just going to pass that power straight through from your 240 straight out to your fridge. It's not going to be relying on the battery at all. If you turn this grid bypass on, when turned on, it prevents the grid from bypassing the battery and powering your appliances directly. The grid will only power appliances when the battery reaches its discharge limit. So that would be really handy in my sort of scenario here as well, where I want to use the battery capacity of the Delta 3 Plus rather than it just passing through the power from my inverter that's connected up to the system. So the flexibility and the things that they've been thinking about here is just awesome. If you had the smart generator, you can choose when to start and stop, you know, under what circumstances you want the generator to start and to charge this thing up. It's nice to see innovation in the device itself, but it's nicer to see things like this in the app that make the usability of the unit just that much better. I'm charging the Delta 3 Plus, you can see it over there, and we're currently pulling around about 60 odd amps out of that battery. So if that was a 12 volt system, obviously that'd be around about 120 amps. So about 1500-ish odd watts coming out of the inverter, and we're seeing around about 1.4 actually going into the Delta itself. So what we're taking is from DC, converting it to AC, charging it AC, and then converting it back to DC. That's why if you can charge at the native voltage, then any conversions and losses are obviously reduced there as well. Okay, so we've got another delivery from EcoFlow, and this one's heavy too. Now I think you can tell what's in here. We've got some solar panels, and companies will reach out and say, look, we're looking to send you a product, do a sponsored thing. Can you tell us what your rates are for a video? Basically how I respond to companies at this stage anyway is just, look, I don't charge for my reviews. I'm happy just to receive the product. I feel if I get paid, then I become an ad rather than a review. All that I ask is that, if there's an additional product or there's some accessories or something that goes with the product, can you shoot me out one of those as well? So look, I suppose that's a form of a payment in a roundabout sort of way, but the way I think about it is I get some additional product for review. The supplier, whoever it is, gets an additional review, so it works out for them. And then you guys as the viewers get to see an additional product as well. So I kind of see that as a win-win-win, if you will. And I don't feel bad for doing a review on a product that I've been paid for. So I want to keep some sort of integrity in the channel. And at this stage, that's how I'm doing it. Look, I'm probably missing out on a heap of money by doing this. At this stage, I'm more interested in just getting some products and doing reviews and things. My intention was to go away camping for the week. I'm currently on holidays for 2 weeks. I've got the Delta 3 Plus behind me. Everything was lined up. Unfortunately, I've had some issues with my neck, which I've been pushed through for an urgent operation on it, and that's coming up, unfortunately, when I was planning on going away. So the camping trip has been put off, and I'm going to be laid up in bed for some time, I think, after the operation. Fingers crossed all that goes well. If you don't hear from me again, it was nice knowing you. Good everybody, just a quick jump in here from Future Brett. Just wanted to let you know the operation happened. They've gone in, they've worked on the spine. Everything seems to be working well. I can feel my hands again. Now, because I wanted to apologise for this not being a real world review, ultimately I had plans and was dealing with EcoFlowers that I was going to take the Delta 3 Plus. I had 2 weeks camping planned, which was meant to be happening now. And I was just literally going to use the Delta 3 Plus and just trying to give some people some real world, look, can I literally use this to run the caravan, my air fryers, induction cookers, all that sort of stuff. Because of this, the operation that I had to have, that's obviously left me a little bit stiff for now. It's all working well though. But it just meant that I can't lift it. I can't lift any more than 5 kilos, right? But if you're looking at these power stations, I guess one of the things you need to consider, other than your needs as far as a power requirement, like how much power you need, what size inverter, all that sort of stuff you need. One of the things you need to consider is the weight. 12 to 13 kilos for these ones that are around about that 100 amp hour odd battery. If you can't handle these, maybe you need to look at the smaller little, like the River series, which they're around about that 300 watt hours, and I think they're coming around about 5 to 7 kilos. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that up. Again, apologies, this wasn't the review that I wanted it to be, but I just wanted to touch on that because I guess in a roundabout way, this becomes a real world test. Cheers. So unfortunately that just means our testing that we're going to do is going to have to be just sort of around the house in the backyard. So we're not going to get to go camping, disappointingly. What I've done here was just said to EcoFlow, look, you can ship me out some solar panels with the Delta 3 rather than giving me a payment. So I don't know what's in here at all, other than the fact that it's solar panels. I don't know which solar panels. I've got no idea. Oh, it's a 400 watter, and it's a folding solar panel. It's a big one, which is outstanding. Now, I was going to say, historically, I've had good results with my EcoFlow panels. That being said, I've had a test case of one, so I'm really happy to be able to get my hands onto a second one. 350 watts out of a 400 watt solar panel. Granted, you know, we're pointing at the sun. It is a nice day. Again, it's still winter, low. So I haven't looked at the specs or anything of this yet, but I'm seeing 38 volts, 39 volts coming out of this. And we're putting in around about, putting out about 9 amps. Which once that's all done, the conversion, because we're going in 24 volt battery system, so it's charging at around about the 27 and a bit volts. We're putting about 12.5 amps into the caravan. Look, this is going through a Victron system at the moment, but I have no doubt that the MPPT that's in our Delta 3 Plus is going to get us the same results. We need to get this plugged into the Delta and get some testing going on. But when I went away camping last time, I had some leftover sausages, and I thought, you know what, I'll cook them up for the dog. Apparently I forgot them. So we're back and we've got a clean air fryer. So let's try that whole thing again. We're currently at 92%. Air fryer's off. It is currently charging the battery while it's taking 25 watts. This is putting in about 350. It's going to take us about 20 minutes to get this charged. We're going to drop it down to 15 minutes and then we'll just come out and see where we're at. We're currently at 91%, 336 watts coming out of the panel, and you know, around about that 1.3 odd, 1.2 and a bit kilowatts, or 1200 and a bit watts coming out of the air fryer while it's cycling. So let's come out in 15 minutes and just see what that battery percentage is. Have we actually gone forward? Have we gone backwards? Are we still the same? Because I reckon we're going to be about even over that period, because this thing doesn't run all the time. That's the beauty of an air fryer. If you've got a decent battery system and a decent inverter, which we have in this, you know, we've got around about 100 amp hours worth of battery in this. We've got an 1800 watt inverter, which will peak up to that 3600 watts. And that's the beauty of these units, is that everything is just built in. It's literally just plug and play. The reason I always keep a fridge cable that still has a Siggy socket on is exactly for this purpose. Like, we've all gone and chop them all off and put Anderson plugs on, because ultimately an Anderson plug is a better connector. But say something happens to your system and you've got to go and use a mate's car or something like that, and he's not set up and he doesn't have an Anderson plug connected to his car or whatever the case may be. Chances are he's got a Siggy socket in his car still. That's legacy, but they're still around and they're still using them in power stations. So it does mean that I can now plug my fridge into the Siggy socket on the back of this Delta 3 Plus. Plug her into the fridge. Turn on the DC with the switches on the back. Now, we're just about to run out of time over here, and we are now on 89%. Have dropped 2% for running that air fryer for 15 minutes. Keeping in mind that I've just plugged the fridge in, it's been sitting out the back, so it's going to be warm, it's not cold at all, so it's going to be cycling. And you can see there, it's pulling around about 40 watts. But considering we're now just running the fridge, the air fryer is turned off. We'll actually turn that AC circuit off. There we go. So we're now only pulling around about 38 watts. Still putting in our 330 odd watts. And our app here, it is showing that we're going to be charged up in about 25 minutes. Quick test while we're here. We're going to plug in the microwave. There's just so much that I want to test with this system. We do have our dual XT60 or solar inputs, but you can use that obviously for plugging into your car as well. So if you had a solar panel on your roof, you can have your solar panel being plugged into this, so taking a solar charge, and then you could also at the same time putting in about 100 watts from the car Siggy socket there as well, cable supplied. But what I want to do is use this proprietary plug here. Now, you know I'm not a fan of proprietary plugs. Despise them with a passion, but this is going to fit their alternator charger. It's up to 800 watts. Now that I've got the alternator charger working, this is working, everything's working well. Now, it's only a 20 amp output, but what I'm going to do is go into this and I'm going to tell the alternator charger that we are now using a 24 volt battery system. Then what we're going to do is turn this up to 24 volts. We'll still get our 20 amps, but we're going to double our output. The start voltage is still showing 13 volts though. That hasn't changed, so they need to update that. We are now outputting around about the 24 volts and at 20 amps. So we're putting 452 watts out over here and 425. So we're losing around about 25 watts in our conversion, which is probably less than was about 5% or something thereabouts. But the good news is the alternator charger obviously will work with a 12 or 24 volt system. It doesn't care. And then obviously all that power is going into our Delta Plus. Now the sun has moved. We've still got the panels out, but just to prove the point, what I'm going to do now is just plug the solar panel back in if I can find it. Here we go. So for your setup, you could obviously be running off your alternator in the car using the alternator charger, and then have your solar panel on the roof, whatever the case may be, coming in. Doesn't necessarily need to be the EcoFlow panel like we've got sitting up over here. I'm really impressed with that. Still don't like the stand, but 400 watts, oh yes. We are currently inputting 660 odd watts into this thing. Just really want to show you how much flexibility you've got with this Delta 3 Plus as far as charging options. I mean, we've literally, I think, covered, well, all but all of them. We haven't plugged it into the back of the car into a 12 volt plug. We've run it off the solar panels, which we've got over there. That's our 400 watt system. I think 400 watts is a really good match. You could probably go with 200 watts, but if you want to get this thing charged up in the course of a day, you're out camping, or keep pace like we did with our air fryer over there, and then still have this thing charged up at the end of the day, good match for this. I don't think a 200 watt would keep up with it, but it certainly still top it up. And we're on for about a minute and a half. Currently pulling 1167 watts, and we're still putting in 600 watts between our solar panel and the alternator charger over here. Now, the other thing that I've gone and done that I just want to test and just give you some ideas on how you can use this thing. On the back, they've got the 5521 barrel connector. What you can actually do is buy some adapters on Amazon. So this is a 5521 barrel connector, which will plug into the back of the Delta Plus to a Siggy socket. So what I can do, rather than taking up that Siggy socket on the back, I can plug this into the 5521 port, plug my fridge into that, and then now I've got an extra Siggy socket that I can use on the back. I've actually bought two of those. I think they were about, it cost me about 12, I think it cost me about 12 bucks for two of those. It does say it's rated at 3 amps max output on that. Currently pulling 37 watts out of that for the fridge. So that's working perfectly. Now, if you've got any of your strip lights and they need to be 12 volt, don't go and do this with your 5 volt variants, but they will have a barrel connector like this on the end of them. And what you can do is directly plug your LED strip in to those barrel connectors. 3 amps is more than enough to run your LED strip. So if you've got those around camp, just get, these are what, 10 bucks or something off eBay, off Amazon, whatever the case may be. These ones are waterproof, so you can have these around your awning, anything you want like that. So that's what those barrel connectors are useful for. Right, so as you can see, it's still raining. The surgery went well, so thanks very much for all the comments, no doubt, that I'm going to get below. Now's probably a good time, since I can't go camping, to wrap this thing up on the Delta 3 Plus. So overall, positive experience, nothing less than I would expect from the EcoFlow or any of the top level branded power stations. I mean, the simple things like having those ports go back to their state that they were before the power station ran out of power. Hang on, and the spider just caught a fly. Good job, buddy, good job. Yeah, those ports just going back to the power state that they were on before the thing lost power is just, I mean, it's just a simple thing, but it just makes all the difference how you can use a power station. The usability and just those little tweaks that they've done through the app and a little bit of functionality has just brought it up to the next level. So that being said, hopefully I'll be on the mend real soon and I'll be able to get out and go camping and do some proper testing. But in the meantime, that's been the Delta 3 Plus. Thanks to EcoFlow for sending it out. Thanks to you guys for watching. It's nice to see you again. Catch you on the next one. Cheers. Yeah, it's a nice rig. But I've got a lot of stuff to pack up here.